While Joel was putting the car back to drift spec, getting this car ready for ice drifting, he said, why don't we set up one half for drifting and then leave the other half for racing, and let's talk about just the suspension differences in terms of setting up a race car versus a drift car. Now, we are going to be missing some points. There's more to it than just suspension, but that's the only things that we changed. That's what we're going to talk about. And these would be the reasons why a race car makes a terrible drift car, or vice versa. A drift car, if it's set up properly, makes a horrible race car. So I'm going to be standing on the race side. You're standing on the drift side. We should probably switch. Okay, I'll stand on the drift side. The reason we switch is he has a lot more racing experience and setup experience with race cars. So, quick pause in the video. This is a giveaway. You can get it any color you want from Prismatic Powder. Go to our Instagram, comment below what color you would get it. That's all you have to do to enter. On the drift side, what we're trying to do is suck in the bottom of the knuckle and push out the top of the knuckle, preferably with an adjustable control arm so that we can maintain close to or at a 0 camber. With cars like this, without a proper drop knuckle or anything, these cars are going to gain camber under compression. For drifting, we need to reduce the camber so that we get the flattest, most perfect tire wear. We got to kind of combat the amount of camber gain that's probably going to happen. So if anything, we would actually do a positive ½ a degree on a drift setup with a car that's running a stock knuckle. And we did that with our lower control arm and our upper control arm. So we shortened this. You can see I'm on the inside hole here with a couple of shims, and then the upper control arm is pushed out. The reason I do both of those is so that I can maintain the proper axle length. If I only did the upper, I would probably stretch the axle too far, and if I only did the lowers, I'd probably compress the axle too much. So then on the traction arm, both for drifting and for racing, we do need to make this anti-squat adjustment. These subframes are designed for all-wheel drive cars, and this correction is needed. But basically, with a dropped ride height, we do that for both drifting and racing. We needed an adjustable traction arm to shorten it. That centers the wheel back in the wheel well. Adjustable tow arm, nothing crazy there, and that's basically what we did for drifting. And as far as dampening goes and sway bars, for a drift car, maximizing the rear, of course, if you have enough power, we would likely disconnect the sway bar. We're going to be running quite a bit softer suspension, because what we want to do is get the weight to transfer from the front to the back and load up the tires, because the tires are in a constant slip. It's hard to get a lot of grip out of them in drifting. Those are some of the things that we did on this side.
Over to this side, the adjustment on the outside, move the bolt to the outside. We wanted to basically pivot the knuckle to gain or to have camber added to it. So right now it's going to run about 3 degrees in the rear. So to do that, we've shortened the upper and lengthened the lower. Now the nice thing about these arms that we have is I moved the shock and the knuckle the same amount, so it doesn't affect the motion ratio of this, but we also have not extended the axle, which a big problem with these is guys try to push the bottom out as far as it'll go, and you end up stretching the axle out, which is not great. You end up wearing out axles, blowing through axles. So complementing the upper and the lower, we've rotated the knuckle to get us a more camber around the axle, the center line of this knuckle. Another thing that a lot of grip guys will do is they'll really maximize the spring rates in these cars. Typically they'll run like a 12, I've seen as high as a 14K spring. We obviously didn't do that just for running our little test session, but that is a big difference that we would run if this was a grip car versus a drift car. To Josiah's point, you want the softer rear for the weight to transfer. In grip, you don't necessarily want that, especially the car's not making enough power to do that. As far as the traction arm, we haven't really changed much. It's pretty much the same. We do have our drop bracket for the front. Like Josiah said, the subframe is an all-wheel drive, not a rear-wheel drive, so we've maximized the improvement on that.
Why do you run a bunch of camber on a race car?
On a race car, you run camber as the car leans onto this side. So this would be the weighted side if we're doing a right-hand corner. The car is going to lean onto itself, the tire is going to roll a bit, and you're maximizing the contact patch on the ground. Because you'll notice that, and how we adjust how much camber we get is we look at the wear on the tire. You can also use this with tire temperature sensors. You can gauge if it's hotter usually on the inside, then we'll tend to increase or decrease the camber. So really what we were testing is looking at the session, you look at the tire, you see how much the tire rolls over onto the outside versus how much it's rolling over on the inside. So here it looks like it's pretty even. You could probably have added actually a little bit more negative camber. We have a bit more on the outside. So we were running 3 degrees, we probably could have gone to 3.5 degrees.
And that's totally dependent on the chassis. And what's happening when you roll is the subframe, you can picture the subframe's rolling, and when you look at what that does to suspension, it actually positive cambers the car when the subframe rolls. And you can see this on our roll center display that we 3D print. As the body rolls, it positive camber. So you're not only are you getting, you're trying to compensate for the slip of the tire and the roll of the chassis. On some cars, it's 3.5, negative, 4, maybe even 4.5 on some cars, depending on if it's what the geometry is and how much it changes. And this is why like a double wishbone car typically handles this roll and this gain better than like a McPherson strut, for example. So you can't apply the same alignment specifications between a 350Z and a BRZ because one has McPherson front, one has double wishbone front. The rears are quite a bit different. But basically, drifting positive +5, +0.5 on racing, negative 3.5, it couldn't be more different in terms of what works well for one and what doesn't. If I had negative 3.5 for drifting, it would work, but your tire would be gone on the inside, cording and tearing apart and exploding. And then if you had 0 or positive 0.5, everyone would laugh at you at the racetrack.
Yes. And you'd blow out the outside of the tire. Also,
Yeah.
even one alignment setting from one BRZ to the next might be completely different. Maybe you're running a 200 tread wear tire for endurance racing. It's grippy, but not super grippy compared to a slick. You probably want more camber as the chassis is going to bite harder and it's going to roll more. It depends on what kind of tire you're running, what kind of series you're, even the track condition. You're running a rougher track that's not really grippy, fresh pavement. There's so many variables that one person's setup is not the same dependent on so many variables. So that's why it's a good benchmark to start with, what other people are running, but really you need to monitor tire wear and make the adjustments needed based on that.
And this goes without saying for both scenarios. Tire compound is the #1 thing that actually matters when it's a drift car or a race car. And one of the things that I was saying yesterday was if you were to compare someone who's playing soccer and one was wearing cleats and one was wearing shoes, the one that's wearing cleats is going to have so much more stress on their calves and their muscles and how they can pivot and move and accelerate and stop. You can't even compare someone who's in basketball shoes or running shoes. They're not even on the same playing field. One is going to be way faster than the other, even if the other guy has more muscle, he's stronger, he's better trained. He can't get the grip. So when you talk about alignment settings, it's all based on the tire. If I have a really grippy tire, the body's going to roll way more versus a slippery tire. Sometimes if I put a party tire on my drift car, the suspension's not even working. It's not even moving. It doesn't actually do anything because there's so little resistance to slip that the car is just skating around. Similar to like when you're driving in rain. When you're driving in rain, a lot of setup stuff doesn't really matter. There's not a whole lot of weight transfer going on. The tire, the compound is what's going to be doing the most. So let's go to the front and look at the two sides. You can start on the differences for your side first.
So because this was drift suspension on it, we don't have our roll center corrected control arm on it, but I did take the mini adapter off the knuckle. One, which you can remove the Ackerman, but I wanted to add Ackerman back into the car. For racing, you definitely don't want to have 0 Ackerman. You want to be able to, if anything, have a bit of a negative Ackerman to put a bit of turn in on the weighted tire. Not really what you want for drifting.
You mentioned that positive Ackerman is what you need for racing. That is for any car that you're not running a bunch of aero on, you need to have positive Ackerman. Somebody's gonna say F1 cars run negative Ackerman. That's because they're making so much downforce. They're accounting for the amount of weight that's on that tire, what that tire compound is capable of handling, and what the slip angle of that tire is, which is a insane tire. Like the tires that they're running cost more than the car. One tire costs more than this car. So don't even relate your Ackerman to an
discussions to
it's not at all relative.
We also have the control arm extended out, and then we moved the shock up at the top, so we only have, again, about 3.5 degrees, I think was in the front. For the same reason, the body rolls. As it rolls, the negative camber goes to positive, the tire rolls. And then again, the tire wear actually looked pretty decent. The tires are actually on the E82 right now, so I can't look at them. But again, we're not running -6 degrees. We're only running like -3 degrees. As far as the front caster, I did keep the caster the same, about 6 degrees left to right, but we did keep the factory tie rods on it, and that was about the change we did on the side. Oh, and brakes, I would have loved to have changed them. Yeah, boy, they got hot.
Big difference between drifting and racing. Drifting, you really don't need brakes. Racing, boy, do you ever need brakes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got a video of me coming in with the smoke coming out. Oh, so I'm going 155, which is all this car could do, down the back straight. And I'm smelling the brakes with the windows down doing 155. I'm like, I shouldn't be able to smell the brakes. So they must be, that was only 4 laps. So yeah, you need really good brakes with racing. Does not really matter for drifting. Drifting, I run a 3/8 thin disc rotor. The only thing that gets hot is the rear from either left foot braking or hand braking. The fronts, give it a couple minutes, they're gonna be fine. Whereas in racing, like, the heat management is of the utmost importance. Moving on to the drift side, we have our shims in place to maximize the accrement. So on a rear rack car, that would be moving the tie rod closer to the bearing. We have extended our bolt-on piece to the middle position, and we have moved the coilover mount out. We are running about -4 camber, but really what we're trying to achieve is maximizing wheel clearance. You can see the wheel was actually touching here, and we really need to maximize wheel clearance with drifting because we want to get the most amount of steering angle. So in drifting, we compensate a lot of possibly potential gains with alignments and stuff just to gain wheel clearance. Track width is crazy. Track width is crazy. It's definitely unbalanced between the front and rear. Usually in the front we're running 3-4 inches, 100 millimeters wider track width than the rear. And all of that is just so we can gain enough clearance to get 60, 70 degrees of angle. That's the number one priority. How do we get the clearance? Then how do we perfect the alignment? And accrement in drifting is also really important. We did lower it, but we're still in a positive setting with this kit, but very low. Probably 2 degree split between maximum angle. So we have about 2 degrees more on the lead wheel than the trail. Let's say it's 58 and 56 on a kit like this. All in all, in the front, kind of a similar setup. We're going to be running a sway bar with drifting. We're going to be running a heavier spring rate with drifting. That would be similar to the racing setup. But things like scrub radius and stuff like that don't really matter as much in drifting as they do in racing. And that's basically because in drifting, a lot comes down to the driver and a lot comes down to the tire as well. And in racing, it's lap times in seconds. You're looking to shave off seconds. If we run 50 laps in a row on a race car, we're gonna nail down a lap time. Even on a 2-minute, 4-kilometer track, we're within 1 second every lap, every single lap. Drifting has nothing even close to this level of consistency, where the variables that change are so drastic. The rear tire on the first lap was cold, now it's at 200 degrees. On the second lap, it's half its tread's gone. It's starting at a higher hot point, and everything about how you drive it is different. So with drifting, you have to adapt a lot, but with racing, the setup is all that you can achieve. If you can drive, once you've verified that you can drive, the setup becomes everything in racing. Whereas in drifting, so much margin, so much room for interpretation. When did you handbrake? When didn't you handbrake? How long did you handbrake? How hard did you pull the handbrake? Like, there's just in that alone, there's 4 variables that have a 20% variance. In racing, it's all down to minuscule differences that give you tenths of seconds. So anyone that's gonna argue with me, go for it.
On track width, while track width would give you insane front stability in a grip racing, it would make the rear like super unhappy. So in racing, you wanna really find a balance between understeer and oversteer, especially if multiple people are gonna be driving a car, like we had this when we were renting endurance cars. You want the car to actually understeer before oversteer because it's safe, it's more, it's easier to predict. You can always come out of an understeer versus an oversteer. So like when we ran the 350Z, we had actually increased the front track width. I've never seen a car pull harder Gs in the front. In just like a 350Z, we pulled almost 2 Gs in corner 5 at Mossport. We had a big 285 sticky on it, but the track width was wide. But it was an oversteer before understeer car, which for me, coming from drifting was great, but to have renters in the car, not great because the car wants to be unsettled. So to find a balance in your grip car where you set up a nice track width. So when I set this car up, I did narrow the front track width because I wanted it to be a balance between front and rear. One, the track marshals get mad if you're drifting everywhere. And two, drifting around a corner is slower than actually gripping around the corner. So it's all about balance in the front and the back when you're setting up for grip.
So just in regards to suspension, that's basically the differences between the two. They're quite large. You could go into way more than that. Brakes is another huge one. All in all, we just decided to use this opportunity to tell you guys about these things. And if you're looking at products for the BRZ, GR86, FRS, whatever you have, from when they came out to present, all these parts fit. They also fit Imprezas too and stuff. Not the front, but all the rear stuff is the same as basically every Subaru after
Impreza, Crosstrek, Forester.
2010, 8. He would know more than me, but after 2008, this rear suspension fits every car. So millions of cars literally could run this rear suspension. Next up is going to be design time, and there's lots of cool stuff going on there. Guys who are watching our design time actually are emailing us, getting their idea in our inbox to the point where I said, yeah, I can do that. I can design that for you. I designed it in a couple days, sent him an invoice for the parts. He paid the invoice within 5 minutes, might be a record, and Rain has already built the arm. So for a design time to now flow into customer requisition, product created, now we're shipping the product, solving a problem. He had airbags and they didn't clear his control arms. We'll go more in detail on the design time. And to have a part shipping out to him with a custom powder coated color by the end of this week is actually kind of insane. So yeah, that's just something that, I don't know, I guess I'm proud of it, maybe. Hard to say. It's really cool. It's a dream come true, and we're only going to be becoming bigger and better at all of these things. So thank you guys for the support watching. We'll see you on design time. That's it.